In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create interactive reports using revisions from the ShipConstructor Marine Information Model to understand how your users are using ShipConstructor. So I'll start with the end in mind and show you some of the reports that I generated. These are just a very small subset of the type of information and reports you could generate. So this is one that I have changes by user. So if I want to interrogate my users, which are named here, which is just AWEA. So obviously you'll have usernames depending on your organization. So this tells me the user is mostly creating my structure drawings and doing a little bit of equipment drawings, while my EA is doing a little bit of my curve plate and so forth. And then this gives me a percentage of just the person, how many drawings that person actually changes. So yeah, EB spends a significant time modifying equipment drawing. And these are interactive, so if I just select on equipment here, it'll highlight just the ones that have equipment and so forth, pipe and the other type of uh, drawing types. I also have this number of days changed. So if I want to find just the parts or the drawings that have changed in the last 3 months there, say for example if I move this, and you kind of get some better numbers for this project that's late in the game. So you can kind of have an interactive way of seeing the information. I also have a report by drawings if I just want to see the type of drawings and who's modifying them and the ratio between the two. So I know here AW is probably my performer here on changing parts in structure drawings. And here I can see it as a stacked view. And again, these are all interactive, so I can see which ones of these EB has changed or MK and so forth. And these are the revision criteria, so which ones have been deleted, created, and modified. So you can kind of have an idea of there's a lot more creation than there is deletion, which is good, but also modification outpaces creation by many factors. Then other ones I have, if I want to get down to a specific user and see what they've actually have changed. Again, this interactive report gives me a little bit more information of what they actually do. So I can select any user that I want here, and everything gets updated with their information. So here AW we know is pretty active. And again, you can filter things down to a time span of changes here. The last one is just more detailed. This gives me the drawings that they've actually modified as well as the parts. So I can select my user again. It'll give me the changes of the drawings that they've actually modified as well as how many changes. But again, this is for the whole project. So if we want to kind of limit it to a certain time span, um, select a different user here. Um, and so forth, it would give me the changes that each of them have changed. So it gives me a little bit more detailed information on my users. And there's infinite amount of reports that you will or could generate. So if you were using this information and you want to get the latest information, all you would have to do is go to this data tab, or you'd have to select on a different tab here, go to this data tab and say refresh all. And what this would do is it would go to the ShipConstructor project and update all the information so that your reports will now have up-to-date information. And from the users using this, that's pretty much all they would have to do is go to data and update the data. Now for actually creating um, these reports, the very first step is to start a new workbook in Excel. So from here, you have to now create a connection to the database to access this information. So if you actually go to data, you go to from other sources and from SQL Server. Here you will enter your server name with your SQL instance name. So my SQL instance name is ShipCon. Make sure your credentials are correct. Click on Next. Select the project that you want to use. I will use that project. I will select a table. It really does not matter which one you use here because we will change it in a future step. Click on Next. And it's a good idea to rename this just so you can kind of know what information this is getting, and we will be getting revision data first, so I just renamed that to revision, and I can rename this one to revision as well. Then click on finish, and then click on properties, and this is where we're going to actually change the connection. So because we're not connecting to just a table, it's a collection of tables that we're connecting to. So you go to the definition tab. So then you go to SQL, you change this from table to SQL because we're not accessing a specific table. And then you will want to select all this and paste the SQL that I will provide in the comments. So once you click OK, it's going to give you a warning. You can continue with it by pressing yes, and then we are ready to insert the data. So depending on your project, that might take anywhere from a second there that you saw to several minutes, and even up to 20-30 minutes depending on how many revisions you actually have. So just a future step that we're going to be doing is using the Power Pivot. So we want to go ahead and name this something a little bit more appropriate. We'll type in revisions here under design after selecting the table. So if you select the table and go to design, it gives you the table name, and it just will make it a little bit clearer later on. As well as we'll want to just rename this sheet just so that we know. And I just name it source just so that people know not to modify it. So the next thing I will add, and I found of looking at revisions, I want to see the drawing types that are being modified, not just the drawing names. So the drawing names in this revision source, if we go back to this data and look at this data, it gives us the part name and also assembly full name, as well as the drawing name, its full path. However, doing some analysis, you want to know the drawing type. And there's many different ways of collecting more information. You can keep on adding more. This is just, again, just showing an example how you can add some more information and link it all up. So if you go through the same process of going to data, go to other sources from SQL, again, type in your server name as well as the SQL server name. Select the project, same project. Select again any table here. We'll rename this to drawing types. Rename this to drawing types. Click on finish. We want to do properties because we're modifying the SQL. If you're just connecting to a table, you could just select the table and then you're done. But in our case, we want it a little bit more complex. Click on table, select SQL, and then select all that and insert the SQL that I will provide you in the comments. Click OK. And then we have all the information that we want here. So this just gives me the drawing full path, but also the drawing type and the item type, which again for reports might be quite useful. So same thing, select on the table, design, rename this to be drawing types, and rename this to be drawing type source. So the next step, if you're ready to use this information, you can actually use the information as you want here. If you're comfortable using pivot tables or just any functionality of Excel, so you can create reports and so forth. There's different ways of creating reports, but I've really been liking how to use Power Pivot because it gives me a better visual representation of the information, as well as if I pass this on to someone else, they can interrogate and click through that interactive reporting, get the information they require. So the first thing to use Power Pivot is to go to Power Pivot tab. If you don't have the tab, you might have to install the extension. This comes automatic with I think Office 2013, but with previous versions you might have to install an additional plugin. So you click on add data model. So this is just adding the information to the Power Pivot so that we can use it, and then select the drawing types and add to data model. So now we have the revisions and the drawing types. You see that it's linked because it's linked to our database, or to the Excel, which is linked to the database. So if we go to the drawing view, or diagram view, sorry, we need to link these two. So again, if you're not in Power Pivot, you can do this with Excel, but you have to use some wizardry for it. And Power Pivot is relatively easy by simply selecting the full drawing path to full drawing path here, and now they're automatically linked. So other things that I do just to make it a little cleaner is I hide some of these from the client tool so that when we're doing the pivot views, they just don't show up because I'll just never use those, never use this information. So it just makes it a little bit cleaner and easier to use, but that's 100% user preference. So that now that we're ready to create our Power View, so I'll just go through one, creating it with you, and then you can create your other ones. So if you go to Insert, and here there's this thing called Power View. So depending if it's your first time, it might take a little bit to initiate it. So when it first creates it, it tries to put some information in here, but I usually just remove it all. If you ever don't have all your tables here, you might want to just click on all, and it'll make sure that it shows you all that information. So anyways, we'll remove some of this stuff. So I'll create one and say that we want to find all the users and the drawings that they have been modified. So I selected revision date and I moved it over here. I select username and select it and put it over top of it. And then the key is just to go to revision date and go to count. And the reason for count is that once you have a count, you can start now creating some graphs. And being familiar with Power Pivot, you'll have to play with it. It's one of those, and there's a lot of information on it. So this starts giving me, the number of the user and the number of changes they've done. So this is pure changes, but I also have a possibility of adding a legend here. So say if I want to find how many of them have been deleted or modified. So it tells me that, adds a little column here, a legend, and it breaks it down there. But if I want to break it down by drawing type, I can just select this item drawing type and put it in here, and now it actually breaks it down by drawing type. And it has a normal ascending and descending order. So, and this is pretty much how you start creating your reports, by just selecting and dragging. There's many different other types as pie charts and bar and bar charts and column charts. So from that, you can start now creating your interactive reports. And I hope that was useful.